Hello everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to do the fold over elastic, armscye, and neckline finishing for our Vega pattern. So the first thing you want to do is go ahead and sew your shoulder seams either with a stretch stitch or you're going to serge those. I recommend using a stretch stitch for this method, for the fold over elastic method, simply because you create less bulk when you're trying to sew your elastic onto your shoulder seams in that area. Because I sewed this with a regular sewing machine with a stretch stitch, I pressed my seam allowances open, once again to reduce bulk in this area. Now what you're going to do is, this is my front and my back like this. You're going to open it up so that one of your armscyes is completely flat like this. And we're going to work on one first, and then you'll repeat the same steps on the second armscye. So the first thing I'm going to do is, using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, I'm going to sew a basting stitch. It's really a stay stitch along this edge here. The reason I'm doing that is because when you're using the fold over elastic, you want the fold over elastic to stretch, but not this fabric, because when this fabric stretches and the elastic stretches, you end up with a lot of little gathers here, and we want to reduce that as much as possible. So once again, I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I'm just going to sew a stay stitch all along this edge here. Now that I've sewn that stay stitch, we're going to work with our fold over elastic. The first thing you want to do is find the right side of your fold over elastic. Now mine is pretty much the same on both sides, but sometimes they have a shiny side or a matte side. So whichever side you want to be facing out, that's the right side of the elastic. I'm also going to mark, I'm going to draw a straight line down the center of my elastic. That's because my center line is a little bit difficult for me to see. So using a heat erasable marker, I am going to mark on the center line on the wrong side of my fold over elastic. All right, now that I have that center line marked, I'm actually going to flip my armscye over so that the wrong side is facing up. And I am going to find the center point of my fold over elastic. Okay, with the center point of my fold over elastic, I am going to place my armscye center. So that will be your shoulder seam. I'm going to match that up with both the center of the fold over elastic in length and in width. So you'll see this is not all the way to this edge. It's at the center point that I marked here. And I am going to pin that in place. I'm then going to take the edge of my fold over elastic and the edge of my armscye and once again match that up. So the edge of the armscye is going to be even with the middle of the fold over elastic. And I'm working on the wrong side of the fold over elastic. And then I'm going to do the same for the other side. Now what I'm going to do, you can see my elastic is tighter than my armscye. So I am going to, with the pin ready, I am going to stretch the fold over elastic just until it stretches enough to meet the armscye. Don't stretch the fabric, just stretch the elastic. And I am going to grab that. And once again, pin so that the raw edge of the armscye meets the center of the fold over elastic. And then I am going to stretch and continue to pin all along this edge of the armscye on both sides. Now that that's pinned, you can see once again the edge of the armscye is even with the middle of the fold over elastic. So that's the view from the wrong side, and then that's the view from the right side there. What we're going to do is we're going to base this in place with a 1/4 inch seam allowance just along this edge here. When I'm basting it in place, I actually like to sew with the wrong side facing up, so I can make sure that when I'm gently stretching this elastic while I'm sewing, I keep the raw edge of my armscye in line with the middle edge of the elastic. And this is what it looks like once it's basted in place. I'm going to repeat all of the same steps with the other armscye on the other side of my unitard. All right, now that that's completed on both sides, so on both armscyes, I am going to pin my side seams. So this is just matched up at the bottom of the armscye and at the bottom of the leg. And I am going to serge or sew both of my side seams. You want to make sure that you are sewing or serging all the way up to the top of this fold over elastic here. Okay, now that I've sewn my side seams, I'm going to fold this elastic back over. Once again, we want to make sure that we're folding on that center mark, that center line of the fold over elastic. So I like to start at the bottom here, and I am going to fold this over. I am going to make sure that the center of the elastic is what I see at the top, and I'm going to pin that in place at the side seam. And then I'm going to do the same thing at the shoulder seam. So again, making sure that that center line is in the center. Now I'm going to continue doing that all the way around. Okay, so that's clipped all the way around. And my raw edge is covered now with the fold over elastic. I'm now going to sew. You can use a zigzag stitch, you can use a triple stitch, stretch stitch, you can use a lightning stitch, whatever stitch you prefer. But you want to make sure you're sewing as close to this inside edge here as you possibly can. So this inside edge here, outside of your basting stitch that you did. When you're sewing, make sure to gently stretch the elastic while you're sewing. I also like to keep my unitard inside out and put my presser foot down on here so I can see and make sure that I am sewing a nice straight line on this side. And you want to make sure you have enough clips all the way around so that you're catching this edge back here, so that when you stitch on the front, you're also catching the back as well. Some people do prefer to do a zigzag stitch, and you can do this with having one needle off your fabric and one needle, off your elastic and one needle on your elastic. So basically the zigzag goes over just the edge of the elastic if you like. It's all just preference. After sewing the fold over elastic, you're going to remove your basting stitch. You're then going to repeat all the steps on the other armscye and give both armscyes a really good steam to shrink back any stretching that may have occurred on the elastic. If you can't see the center line of your elastic, go ahead and mark it now. Then, right sides together, you're going to match up the short ends, pinner clip, and sew with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Don't serge this. You need to use the sewing machine, otherwise it will be very bulky in the back. After sewing, you're going to trim your seam allowance, and then you're going to mark the center point of your elastic. And then you're going to find the quarters. You're then going to find the quarter points of your bodice neckline. Pay attention to the fact that the quarter points will not be the shoulder seams, because the back is lower than the front. The quarter points will not be the shoulder seams, so disregard those. What you can do, however, is match those up like this to find the center front and the center back. My center front and center back I've already marked with a marker because I find that easier, but you can also use a pin or clip. And then to find your quarter points, you're going to match up your center front and center back and just walk the neckline until you get to the end point. So that would be my quarter point there. Okay, now as we did with the Armscyes, we're going to place the elastic with the edge of the neckline even with the middle of the elastic. So you're going to do that with the right side facing out. So the right side of the fold over elastic facing out, the right side of the fabric touching the wrong side of the fold over elastic. And we're going to go ahead and pin these in place. And I like to kind of work this way because it's easier for me to see. I'm placing the edge of the fabric at the correct point in the fold over elastic. Now that we have the quarter points pinned, we're going to pin in between just like we did with the Armscyes. So once again, you're going to lightly stretch the fold over elastic and pin in between the other pins and then pin again. Now that it's pinned all the way around, we're once again going to baste with a 1/4 inch seam allowance from this raw edge all the way around this neckline. Once that's basted in place, you're going to again fold the fold over elastic over and pin or clip at the quarter points. It doesn't have to be exactly the quarter points this time, just close to. You can also use a basting glue stick for this step if you wish. It will help keep the edge of the elastic in place. I do recommend also using the clips as well, but you can use both, and you can do that with the Armscyes as well. We're just going to continue doing this all the way around. Now that that's clipped, we want to once again edge stitched all the way along the edge of the neckline using a zigzag stitch, lightning bolt stitch, or triple stitch. After you finish top stitching, remove your basting stitch, give it a really good steam, and you're finished. And that is how you do the fold over elastic on Vega.